What are the tips and tricks for rigging highlines efficiently? Check it out on this episode of How Not to Highline. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks and welcome to my garage. Today we're going to show you how to rig highlines efficiently. We're going to talk about pre-taping, pre-bagging, pre-web locking, and pre-flaking, and other tips and tricks during your rigging process. Some people like rigging more than others. Personally, I like rigging, but I don't want anything under 200 feet to take me more than an hour. It's not necessary, and I'd really rather highline. One of the key components here is having a good highlining partner. If you have somebody not showing up on time or bringing what they're supposed to bring, having a good plan, which is the next step, is all for nothing. So it used to take me 3 or 4 hours to rig a 100-foot highline, and then I heard of people rigging 200 to 300-foot highlines in under an hour. I was like, how are they doing that? I was working really fast when I was rigging. So rigging time is considered the time that you start rigging to the time you're done. No big secret there. The real secret is that they did 95% of the work at home. So how do you do 95% of the rigging process at home? It's all in your plan. The better plan that you have, the better your rigging process will go outside. So a really good plan has a lot of details figured out. For example, you gotta know what your main and your backup webbings are so you can pre-tape them. If you can get your web locks pre-installed before you send it over to the static side, then that'll save you a lot of time. If you know what side the leash needs to be on, if the guy on the static side is gonna slide over when it's done, it needs to be on that side. Those details can save you a lot of time. So let's go over the bag of tricks that you can use to get the majority of the rigging process done at home. One of the best time-saving tricks out there is pre-taping your line. Here is my Spider Silk and Am Steel backup combo. And I have pre-taped all the way down past the length I would ever need with this specific rig. And nobody has to go out and tape the line when we're done rigging. I don't show you how to tape in this video, I'll do that in another video. But the point is, you can do this on your couch at home while watching TV. This isn't something that needs to be done when you're out rigging and wanting to highline. Another time-saving trick is pre-installing your web locks. I do this on the side that's going to be sent over to the static side, because the static side is usually the side nobody wants to hang out at, or it's the hardest to work on, so you're not going to tension from over there. So it's better to have all the stuff you can do on your couch done before you send it over. Check out our other video on how to use web locks for a highline, but in this situation I have set up my configuration the way I like. I have 2 soft shackles that'll go on the master point once it goes over there. This big carabiner is going to go on my tagline, and when it's sent across, all this extra webbing I've pre-taped so it can stay nice and organized until it's on the master point. The tape is close to the web lock, so I know that I've kept things flat, and from this point on, it's just easy to send over. Having the static side of your highline pre-set up also goes for sew-in loops. Here I have double sew-in loops with a soft shackle method, which I strongly encourage you not to use. I will do a separate video on that. But just for the example of something that, oh, it's quick and easy, I'll do it later, this can also be pre-set up, ready to be clipped to your tagline and sent across. Another time-saving trick is to pre-install the leash. If the guy on the static side is going to slide over when he's done, which I don't recommend because you should inspect both sides before you get on, it is at least on the static side when it's over to him. The spare carabiner allows it to be clipped to the anchor while your hands are busy installing this part. If you put on 2 leashes, if you want it on the other side, all of that should be pre-planned and pre-installed before you ever arrive to your highline. Another time saver trick is to flake the webbing correctly into the correct bag. For example, you want to make sure that there's no twist and that the static side is on top, because that's the side that's going to come out when you attach your tagline. You also want to make sure that it's at the bottom of the backpack you're going to use, because you don't want to bury your anchor material. You don't want to have to take your webbing out when you get to the highline. Another trick is to have your tagline completely ready to go. For example, I have the top of the perfectly flaked tagline clipped to both handles. So you can take this off and it can just be ready to go. The bottom is tied to the bottom of one handle. And that way, there's nothing I need to do when I get to my highline, so the person going to the static side can just get going. It's a real time saver not to have your anchor material mess. You don't want a yard sale when you get to your highline to figure out who's going to take what. For example, here at home, I can split up the static ropes for each side. I can put half the whoopies in this bag and half the whoopies in the tension system bag. The tension system bag will take my tension system. My static side will take a hangover for my partner to come back over, and possibly a pulley for their tagline. Each side gets some spare beaners, and each side gets their quick links. This is everything I'm going to need for the highline I'm going to do. I put it in a bag like this, and that way each person can just grab what they need and take off for the side they're supposed to work on. And you can also use the bag as padding or to reflake the tagline as you pull it across. So a lot of uses for the bag. It keeps it nice and tidy. It will save you time if you take the time to send your webbing over flat instead of rushing and just sending it out. You want to make sure that your webbing is even, and that you keep both strands flat and facing up, and that everything is even. This will save you time in the long run. Communication can also save a lot of time. Not only is it safer to be able to communicate, but it can also save a lot of time when things don't always go well to be able to communicate the problems that you're having. So the moral of the story is that you do everything you can possibly do at home before you ever get out to the highline. Efficiency means safety, because instead of spending 4 hours in the hot sun and getting frustrated and making stupid mistakes, you are doing exactly what you planned with all the gear you knew you would need, and you're not jimmy rigging anything. Being efficient can keep you safer. Since nothing goes as planned, you can lose efficiency and compromise your safety because of it. Therefore, you shouldn't highline. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks, and this was another episode of the How Not to Highline series. This is a guide for slackliners interested in transitioning into highlining. We are not here to spoon feed the right rigging techniques. Instead, we hope to empower slackliners to critically think about any system that they're going to use. Risk awareness can keep people alive. Please don't rig your first highline without an expert. We have too many wonderful and generous people in our highlining community to go out rigging your first highline by yourself after watching a YouTube tutorial. Let's keep this sport safe. And remember, since no system is perfect, therefore you shouldn't highline. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.